Disappointed. I felt very disappointed in June 2016 when I heard the referendum result. Although I wasn't shocked, but I was disappointed. I think, having come from an English father brought up in London and a French mother, I've never quite felt the same as most English people. I went to a French school, and with my English cousins, I felt that we had something different, and I've always felt a European at heart because of that. So although I like Marmite, I like the BBC, and I do feel English, I feel French, but then sometimes I feel nothing. I feel neither. I feel torn. Sometimes I've never actually read it, but I've heard of a Lebanese Frenchman who wrote a book called Les Identités Meurtrières. Amin Malouf, I think that's his name, and he was brought up in France of Lebanese family, and I think from what I've been told by a very good friend of mine who always quotes his book, you never quite feel one thing or the other, and you're a little bit caught in the middle, and that's why I think I feel like a true European. The results of Brexit hasn't really taught me anything different about England, because, you know, even though we were in the European common market as such, we still had the pound and everybody else had the euro. We still drove on the other side of the road to everybody else, and, you know, we're fairly different to the rest of the Europeans, I think, personally. The thing that at the moment is concerning me for perhaps my parents who live between France and England is the NHS, well, the agreements that the EEC had with health issues. So, you know, now there'll no longer be that agreement, and people will have to have private health insurance to go if they want to live part of the year in one country as a retiree or not. I'm not quite sure where that issue will stand. Brexit hasn't impacted my life so far. We'll have to see how things go further along the line, but no, it hasn't, and as I say, I'm not sure what will happen. We'll see. I wasn't allowed to vote, and I found it quite disgraceful, considering you know, you're considered British no matter what for the rest of your life, and the change will have a big impact on people that don't live in Great Britain. I'm half French, as I said before, and I've never lived in France, and I am allowed to vote in France. I mean, last year I went to renew my son's passport in the French consulate in Barcelona, and I was told that even if you never renew your passport, you will remain French for life. And here I've seen quite a lot of people on Facebook talking about Brexit and saying to English people that live in Spain, for instance, well, you don't live in the UK, so you're not allowed a say. Well, why are we not allowed a say? And I just find it very unfair, because suddenly our position as foreigners in another country will take on a different, well, you know, we won't be allowed to stay as easily. Our visas will be different. We will be ex-community. Gutted. I feel completely gutted. I think it's sad to think that, you know, a country like Britain that colonized so many countries, and we're now made of a multi-raced country, wants to eliminate this multi-race, and in my mind they want to go back to being what England was pre-Victorian times, and it just really saddens me, because you can't just get rid of all this past history and go back in time. It just doesn't work. And you know, when you go to, living as a foreigner in another country, I see that learning other languages is extremely important and necessary. And here I've noticed more and more people that bring up their children in England, unless they send them to a foreign speaking school, their children will tend to want to steer away from their language of family origins to become British, because that's what the English make them feel they need to be accepted, and reject their language of origin, which I find very sad, instead of you know, enriching themselves with more culture. And well, that's number one. And then number two, how is the country going to progress if no English person wants to do the menial jobs, if they're going to you know, not accept all these immigrants in the country? I just don't know how the country's going to go ahead.